The nicest person you know is probably the most exhausted person you know. Think about that for a second. They're always available, always helpful, always got a smile ready even when they look like they haven't slept in 3 days. And you've probably thought, damn, I wish I was more like that. You shouldn't. Here's the thing, nobody actually says out loud, kindness, the chronic kind, the kind that never turns off. It doesn't come from a good place. Not always. It comes from somewhere darker than that. And most people who live inside it, they have no idea. They genuinely think they're just nice people. Look, we're taught from the time we're kids that being kind is good. Be helpful. Be agreeable. Don't make it hard for other people. And if you do those things, you get love. You get approval. You get to feel safe. That's the deal. Nobody writes it down anywhere. But every kid figures it out fast. The messed up part is that lesson doesn't stay in childhood. You carry it into your 20s, your 30s, your whole adult life. And you're still running the same program you wrote at age 7. Say yes, make people comfortable. Don't be a burden. And it works until it doesn't. There's a specific kind of tired that nice people feel. It's not physical tired. You can sleep 8 hours and wake up still feeling it. It's the tired that comes from spending years being whoever everyone else needed you to be. And you start to notice things, little things. Like how you can't answer the question, what do you want? Without a weird pause. Like how your first instinct when someone asks for something is to say yes before you've even processed what they're asking. Like how you feel guilty. Actually guilty. When you do something just for yourself. That's not kindness. That's a cage you built yourself. And you painted it to look like a virtue. The nicest people aren't givers by nature. They're survivors who learned that giving kept them safe. Nobody's going to tell you this at a dinner party. Nobody's putting it on a motivational poster. But you already know something's off. You've known for a while. Every time you say yes and mean no. Every time you smile when you want to scream. You know, you just haven't let yourself look at it directly yet. You know, someone like this. Maybe you are someone like this. They'll listen to your problems for 2 hours straight. Help you move on a Saturday. Lend you money they don't really have. And they do it all with a smile. Genuinely. Warmly. No visible hesitation. From the outside, it looks like a superpower. From the inside, it's a slow bleed. Because behind every single one of those moments, there's a voice. Quiet. Easy to ignore. What about me? And every time, that voice gets shut down. Because nice people have an unwritten rule they follow without even knowing it. Your needs come last. Your comfort comes last. Your exhaustion comes last. That's not a personality trait. That's a wound that learned to dress itself up nice. Here's how it actually happens. You're a kid. You figure out that being easy to deal with gets you warmth. Being difficult, having needs, taking up space, that gets you something colder. So you adapt, you shrink, you get very, very good at reading rooms and adjusting yourself to fit whatever's needed. And the adults around you call it maturity. They call it being well-behaved. They reward it. What they're actually doing is training you to disappear. They didn't teach you to be kind. They taught you that your value was conditional on your usefulness. Fast forward 20 years. You're still doing it. Still performing, still shrinking. Except now there's no obvious reason why. The original threat is long gone. But the behavior stayed. Psychologists have a name for it. Compassion fatigue. It's what happens when you give out so much empathy, so much care, so much of yourself, that eventually there's nothing left to give. And here's what that actually looks like. Doesn't look like a breakdown. Not at first. It looks like getting irritated at small things, like snapping at someone you love over something stupid. It looks like going quiet at parties, like a kind of flatness that sits behind your eyes even when you're laughing. It looks like being tired of people, not enemies, people you love. Because your nervous system doesn't know the difference between your trauma and theirs anymore. You've been carrying other people's weight so long, it just all blurs together. There's research on this. People who consistently put others first, who can't say no, who define themselves through their helpfulness, they report significantly higher rates of anxiety and depression than people who maintain some kind of balance. And the physical stuff too. Chronic stress, immune issues, sleep problems. Your body starts keeping score even when your brain is still pretending everything's fine. The messed up part is, nobody around you notices. Why would they? You're still showing up, still smiling, still useful. You've gotten so good at performing okay, that the performance and the reality are basically indistinguishable now. Even to you, especially to you. And then something happens. Could be small, could be huge. Someone asks you for one more thing, and something in you just doesn't move. Not anger exactly. Not sadness exactly, just nothing. Like, oh, well, that's been drawn from every single day. Finally coming up dry. That emptiness is information. It's been trying to tell you something for years.
Minimums.
You just kept calling it selfishness and shutting it up.
100.
Here's the thing about chronic kindness that nobody talks about. It trains the people around you, not on purpose,
50,
not maliciously,
40,
but slowly,
20.
consistently. You
10.
teach everyone in your life that your needs are negotiable, that your time is available, that your limits don't exist, and eventually, people stop asking if you're okay, not because they don't care, because they've learned to assume you'll always adjust. You've made yourself predictable in the worst possible way. The nice person ends up invisible, not ignored exactly, just background. Always there, always available, never really seen. You wanted connection, you got utility. You didn't become someone people loved. You became someone people relied on. Those aren't the same thing, not even close. And that distinction, when it finally hits you, is one of the loneliest feelings there is. All right, no cushioning from here. Your kindness is not purely kindness. Some of it is fear wearing a costume, fear of being rejected, fear of being seen as selfish, fear that if you stop being useful, people will leave. And honestly, some of them will. That's worth sitting with. Some of the relationships in your life exist specifically because you never say no. Not because of who you are, because of what you provide. You already know which ones. Here's another one. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you're not being kind. You're lying. To them, to yourself. A polite, well-intentioned lie that you've told so many times it doesn't even feel like a lie anymore. It just feels like being a good person. It's not the smile you put on when you're running on empty. That's not strength. That's a performance. And performances have audiences, which means somewhere underneath it. You're still waiting for applause, still waiting for someone to notice how much you give, still waiting for it to be enough. It won't be not like that. You can't give your way into being loved. You can only give your way into being used. Nobody's going to say that to your face, but you felt it late at night when it's quiet and you're running the math on your relationships. What you put in, what comes back, the numbers don't add up. They haven't for a long time. Here's the science part. Fast. Your brain has mirror neurons. They're why you feel what other people feel. They're why empathy is even possible. But here's what nobody tells you. Those neurons can't tell the difference between healthy empathy and drowning in someone else's pain. If you're constantly absorbing other people's stress with no boundary, no filter, no recovery time, your brain starts running chronic stress responses, like a car engine redlining every single day. Eventually something breaks. And when it breaks, it doesn't look like a crisis. It looks like not caring anymore about anything. Psychologists call it pathological altruism, when the desire to help actually causes harm. To you, sometimes to the people you're helping. Because when you constantly rescue someone, you know what you're teaching them. That they don't need to figure it out themselves. Your kindness becomes their crutch. And you both end up weaker for it. That's not a comfortable thought. Good. Here's one more truth that's gonna land wrong. You've been confusing people-pleasing with morality. They're not the same thing. One comes from values. The other comes from anxiety. Real kindness has a spine. It can say no. It can disappoint people. It can hold a boundary without apologizing for 3 days afterward. What you've been doing, a lot of it, isn't kindness. It's conflict avoidance dressed up in generous language. And the people who benefit from it, not all of them, but some of them, they know, maybe not consciously, but they know you'll fold. They know the yes is coming. So they keep asking. Some people aren't in your life because they value you. They're there because you're easy, and you've made damn sure of that. Look, this isn't about becoming cold. It's not about flipping a switch and suddenly not giving a damn about anyone. It's about the fact that you've been running a system that was never sustainable, and you've been calling the exhaustion humility, calling the resentment patience, calling the slow disappearance of your self-growth. It's none of those things. The anger you keep swallowing, it's data. It's your system telling you a line got crossed. But you've been taught that anger is ugly, that it's not what nice people feel. So you swallow it again, 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 until it stops coming out as anger and starts coming out as something colder. Contempt, indifference, that flat look behind the eyes. You didn't lose your kindness. You buried it under everything you refused to feel. And now you don't recognize yourself. That's the real monster. Not the resentment, not the limits, not the occasional no. The monster is the years of self-abandonment quietly stacked up while you were busy being good. So here's where we land. Not with answers, not with a plan, just with clarity. The uncomfortable kind. You're not a bad person for being kind, but you might be a person who used kindness to avoid something harder. Avoid conflict, avoid rejection. Avoid the terrifying possibility that if you stopped being useful, people might not stick around. That's worth knowing, even if it stings. Especially because it stings. Here's what actually changes things. Not a mindset shift, not a morning routine, not some framework you read about online. Just one thing. Honesty about where your yes actually comes from. Next time someone asks you for something, before you answer, just pause 1 second. Ask yourself if you actually want to do this. Not should I? Not what will they think if I don't? Do you want to? That's it. That's the whole practice. It sounds simple. For some of you, it's going to feel like diffusing a bomb because somewhere along the way, you got wired to believe that your wants are dangerous, that having needs makes you a burden, that the safest version of you is the one that takes up the least space. It was never true. And the relationships that only work when you take up no space, those aren't relationships. They're arrangements. You're allowed to notice that. Here's the thing about boundaries that nobody frames correctly. A boundary isn't a wall. It's not coldness. It's not selfishness. It's information. It tells the people around you what you actually have to give, not what you can force yourself to give, not what you can squeeze out on fumes, what you genuinely have. And when your yes comes from that place, it means something. People feel the difference, even if they can't name it. The yes that comes from fear feels hollow. The yes that comes from actual willingness, that one lands different. Research backs this up too. People who maintain real limits are actually rated as more trustworthy, not less. Because when they say yes, they mean it. There's no performance underneath it, no quiet resentment waiting to surface 6 months later, just a real answer from a real person. That's rarer than you think. Now look, some people won't like the new version of you, the one that occasionally says no, the one that doesn't immediately fold, the one that has an actual edge to them. Some people will call it selfish. Some will get distant. Some will straight up leave. Let them. If the only version of you they wanted was the one that never had needs, that relationship was already broken. You were just the only one paying the cost of it. The people who leave when you start having limits were never really staying for you. They were staying for the access. Here's the last thing, and this is the part that actually matters. How you treat yourself when no one's watching. That's where this whole thing lives or dies. Do you rest when you're tired or push through because resting feels like failing? Do you forgive yourself when you mess up or run it on loop for days? Do you talk to yourself like someone you give a damn about? Because if the answer to most of that is no, then your kindness to other people is built on sand. You can't pour from a well you've never once refilled. You already know that. You just keep hoping the rules don't apply to you. They do. The mask you've been wearing, the endless warmth, the constant availability, the smile that costs more every single year, you can put it down. Not forever. Not all at once. Just long enough to remember what your actual face looks like. Because here's what's true. When kindness comes from someone who's genuinely okay, genuinely full, genuinely choosing it, it doesn't just feel different. It hits different. It actually reaches people. It doesn't create debt or resentment or invisible ledgers nobody talks about. It just lands clean. Real. That's what you've been trying to give this whole time. You just had the source wrong. The monster inside kind people was never their anger. It was never their limits. It was always the years of quietly abandoning themselves and calling it love. So the question isn't how to be kinder. You've got that part. The question is whether you're on the list, your own list, of people worth taking care of. Because until you are, everything else is just noise.